turned the radio dials to NPR. His insistence on reading the subtitles of movies we watched aloud, even though we, too, could read. Dad was a funny man. That's what other people told me. He humored waitresses and cab drivers, security guards and dentists. They gave off-kilter responses to his jokes, as if they knew that something was funny, but couldn't quite nail what. Just laugh at his jokes and he'll like you, I told my first boyfriend. He doesn't care if you're a good driver or if you make a pass at me. He's not the overprotective type. I was wrong about that. He just wasn't overprotective in the typical way, like he wasn't funny in the typical way. Dad loved pranks. Our carpet was scattered with plastic recreations of vomit and dog shit and rubber chickens. "Do you want to see a picture of the kids when they were young?" He'd ask a stranger on the plane, pulling a photograph of 2 chimpanzees from his wallet. "That's Jenny, and this one's Rachel." My sister, Jenny, and I executed the perfect response on a regular basis. We laughed, we rolled our eyes, we swatted at Dad's sleeve. We were allowed to be funny back, but only to a certain extent. One summer day, Dad, Jenny, and I were walking the dog through the forest preserve. I must have been in the 7th or 8th grade. We came across a sign that read, "No dogs allowed." "Dad, you'll have to wait right here," I said, chuckling. "What did you say?" Dad asked. "What was that, Rachel?" Something in his voice wasn't right, and I immediately wished I hadn't spoken. Jenny's laughter came from her nose in suffocated fits. Dad looked at her, somewhat bewildered, and I prayed he'd linger there on Jenny's laughing face. "Did you say what I think you said, Rachel? Because you're not funny." Dad's eyes looked as if they'd been overexposed to the sun, but it was not a sunny day. "You don't understand humor like I do." He was very protective of his funniness, and, in time, we came to gauge not what was funny, but when we could be funny around Dad. When we gauged wrong, we paid. Dad didn't speak to me for the rest of the day. I apologized to him before I went to bed, told him that I didn't think he'd take it so personally. "It was a stupid thing to say," I mumbled. He looked up from what he was reading, and I thought for a moment that it was pain I saw in his eyes. But it was always hard to differentiate tiredness from suffering in the face of an adult. He returned to what he was reading and said, "Tell me, Rachel, what's not personal about calling your father a dog?" Chapter 1. There was a time before. There's always a time before. It was a time we can all look back on with a certain nostalgic affection. Not because things were easy, but because we all knew our place in relation to Dad. It was before I turned 10. Jenny was 7. We slept in the same bed. We bathed together. Dad referred to us as the children. And because we were the children, because there was nothing distinguishing us from each other, we fought on the same team. Dad appeared to us as stubborn and erratic, but he was our dad, and each of us was desperately trying to feel our way to his heart. Mom was her own person. She had a laugh that filled a room. She set up watercolor paints on the kitchen table, clay on the floor, mixed newspaper with water and paste so we could make papier-mâché masks. We lived in a house with a yard. We had a dog. We traveled frequently. We saw our parents above us, our protectors, the people who turned our lights on in the morning and off again at night so we could sleep. Jenny and I hurt to hear them fighting, to think there might be something wrong with the foundation upon which we built our images. It was normal stuff that concerned us all back then, but things were beginning to change. Mom was losing her footing. When I was 11 and Jenny was 8, we attempted to smuggle our Barbie dolls across the Mexican border to vacation with us in Cancun, where they could sunbathe and swim in the bathtub. Jenny's Barbies were in better condition. She didn't stick their heads in bowls of blue food coloring like I did.